Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that I had an immediate 5-0 with in my first set, trying it out in the Great League Fantasy Cup. The team is built around Perrserker as the save switch. Perrserker has many movesets that it can run, but I believe that the Trailblaze Close Combat version is the best for this particular team. For the lead, I'm running Tapu Fini. You could also run Azumarill, I just don't have one built, and as the closer, I have the ever-deadly Shadow Flygon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at this team in action in the Great League Fantasy Cup. Hopping to the first match, leading Tapu Fini into a Skarmory, so right off the bat, this is a pretty solid lead for the Tapu Fini. The important thing with this team is if you're just able to keep Flygon away from Skarmory, then you're going to be in a pretty good spot. The only way that Skarmory is going to have success in the Zero Shield is by going for a Brave Bird. I'm very okay with tanking this because I can actually survive the Brave Bird. It does a lot, but I can hang on here. If they choose to go Sky Attack, then I actually win the zeros. And now, if they decide to shield, I don't want to give them a full farm down, as that much energy is quite scary even to Perrserker. So I'm going to switch out and send in Perrserker. Opponent is going to send out Galarian Stunfisk, so they have no response to the Perrserker save switch. Close Combat connects, that does massive damage. They have to Earthquake to knock out here. I'm expecting the Rock Slide, so I let it through. They do actually full send the Earthquake, but they are now just feeding Flygon energy, and Flygon up energy is incredibly scary. Rock Slide, not going to do a whole lot of damage. They have energy on the Skarmory, and they're going to use it here. Firing off the Sky Attack, I will commit the shield. I'm going to look to farm up to the back-to-back Dragon Claws, and their Skarmory is very close to a range where Dragon Claw can knock out. The Dragon Claw leaves them on 1 HP. In the back is a Bastiodon. Bastiodon is technically eligible for this cup, but in my view, it has zero play. Almost everything in this meta beats Bastiodon. The Scorching Sands connects, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. We've got a lost lead in the next match, Tapu Fini versus Empoleon. I save switch into Perrserker. Perrserker doesn't have the most comfortable matchup, being down a turn in this matchup. However, if they stay in, I'm just going to Trailblaze them and start ramping up my damage. They switch out into Flygon, so my opponent is probably running a team that I featured the other day, and their third should be Giratina. Even though with this Perrserker's moveset is actually walled by Giratina, you still win the 1s and the 2s. Here, I'm going to call the bait because they have to Scorching Sands to knock me out, and if they don't, they're going to regret it, as I can survive, make it to another Trailblaze, and nearly one-hit KO the Flygon. That's very, very good for me. I can now get energy on my own Flygon. Shadow Flygon, in my view, is going to be the most skill-intensive Pokemon to use in this particular meta. If you're able to get up energy with it, it is incredibly powerful and is play into everything not named Skarmory. Here, my opponent tries for a Scorching Sands catch onto Giratina. Unfortunately for them, they are unsuccessful, and now Flygon just gets to completely take over this game. Flygon firing off the Dragon Claw, picking up the knockout. Back in comes Empoleon. I'm going to farm up, switch, and catch the Hydro Cannon onto Tapu Fini, and this game is over. The opponent is going to stay in and try and play it out, but unfortunately, there's just no way for them to win here. They're going to be able to reach the Drill Peck, but Drill Peck does not KO the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is barely able to hang on. I try and throw in good timing there. Unfortunately, the stutters were back today, so it ends up doing 2 fast moves when I wanted to do 1 in the move. But the good news is, does not affect the outcome, and we're able to take the win. A familiar lead greets us in match 3, another Skarmory. Again, we have 2 pretty decent checks to this, the Tapu Fini and of course the Perrserker. So I will be firing off the Surf. Surf is going to connect onto the Skarmory, an exact same game plan as last time. If they want a Brave Bird, that's fine. I'm just going to bring in the Flygon. They actually go for the Sky Attack, which means I can win the zeros. Odds are they're probably going to look to shield and just farm down, so if they do that, I'm just pivoting into Perrserker. They actually let it go. They bring in Flygon, and this is bad. I forced the switch into the Perrserker because I can't bring in my own Flygon down energy. This is incredibly bad. I shield up. It's the Scorching Sands. They switch out, and that instantly wins me the game. The opponent, if they stayed in with the Flygon and played it out, they would have been in a far better position. Because down energy, Perrserker has no ability to win that matchup. I was forced to switch out because it was my only play. I couldn't stay in and just give the Flygon farm. But by switching into the Azumarill, the opponent just gave the game to me. They pick up the KO with the Hydro Pump, but now I can just bring in the Flygon. And as long as I get a massive amount of farm on the Flygon, my opponent just has no way to win. They don't have any energy on their Flygon. They threw their energy and switched. They bring in their own Flygon into 100 energy of my own, and there's just no way they can win this. I have back-to-back Dragon Claws. Dragon Claw, Shadow to Shadow, is basically a clean one-shot, so it's able to pick up the knockout. In comes the Azumarill. I make it to the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to be able to knock out that Azumarill, and we're able to take the win, and we move to 3-0 in the set. Hopping into game number 4, Empoleon lead again. I save switch into Perrserker. Opponent is going to respond with a Giratina Origin. So again, this very well could be the same team that I featured, which is honestly a team that does pretty well into mine. The Perrserker moveset, however, even though it is walled by the Giratina, we're going to be able to see you're actually still able to win the ones here. In this case, I am up energy, which helps, but just being able to boost your Shadow Claws, the Shadow Claws just melt through the Giratina. Trailblaze will pick up the KO. Let's see. Is it going to be the Flygon on the back? Yes, it is. So the opponent was trying to make the hard read that I was trying to bait out the Flygon. I'm just going to fire off the Trailblaze here. They're forced to shield, because if they don't, that's just one-shotting. Perrserker just completely taking over this mid-game. This Pokemon is an absolute menace. Oh my goodness. I'm firing off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw, they know they can no-shield it, but that's fine. That's the damage I need to be able to farm down. Opponent realizes they don't have a win con, and they will concede the match. We've got some spice on the lead from the opponent as we look for the 5-0. Leading the Tapu Fini into Galarian Rapidash. Rapidash is one off the back-to-back body slams. It's 4 pacing here, so I'm going to throw 1 Water Gun and the move. But again, the game today was very frustrating. It kept throwing 2 when I was trying to throw 1. Here, I decided to switch into the Perrserker. I was hoping to potentially catch a Body Slam. They can Body Slam bait me here and potentially try and make it to... I was going to say try and make it to a high horsepower, but they end up saving their energy and switching out into Clefable. Clefable walls the typical moveset of Perrserker. If you're running the Foul Play and Close Combat, your energy is walled here, but another reason why I think Trailblaze is so good. The Moonblast is going to connect. I'm looking to overfarm. I could have overfarmed 1 more there, but honestly, I wasn't really counting, so I was more so just going off of vibes. In comes the Shadow Alolan Sandslash. This is a double boosted Close Combat. This would KO like 3 Sandslash. They're forced to commit the shield, and I need to aggressively switch to the Tapu Fini. They need a Drill Run to knock out here. They cannot throw the Ice Punch. They throw the Ice Punch. It does not KO. I make it to the Surf. Tapu Fini putting in a tremendous amount of work. The Surf will get them low. The switch out into the Rapidash. And I still have 1 Shadow Claw available from Perrserker. So I'm bringing in the Perrserker here. And that Shadow Claw should put them into perfect Mudshot farm down range for the Flygon. I commit the shield. It's the Body Slam. A Body Slam is not going to be enough to knock out here. I can survive a high horsepower as well. It is just going to be the back-to-back Body Slams. I get the farm down. I leave with the Dragon Claw. And that's going to be all she wrote for the opponent. Dragon Claw KOs the Sandslash. And I get the 5-0 set. We move into the next match, going up against fellow content creator Jonkus, leading Tapu Fini into his own Perrserker. So Perrserker, definitely awkward here, especially if he's running Trailblaze, and he farmed to 7, so this will be a Trailblaze. I'm going to throw 1 and go for the Surf. This time the game actually does work, which is quite nice. And now I'm just going to bring in my own Perrserker. Perrserker up energy is so deadly in this format. That's part of why I really like the Perrserker Shadow Flygon backline. Both of them up energy are incredibly strong. There's the Close Combat, and there's the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini will immediately be met with the Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to do a ton of damage. The Shadow Claws are now boosted, trying to make it to the Close Combat, but I'm unable to get there. But this is going to set up a Flygon farm down. I'm guessing he probably has a Azumarill in the back. It would be just a pretty, like, standard ABB style team. So I'm expecting the typing not to change, and there's the Azumarill. And this is a winning endgame for me, or at least I think it is. The Scorching Sands will connect. I don't get the debuff, which is a little unfortunate. Getting debuffs would help me survive the bubble damage better, which would be definitely nice. I'll fire off another Scorching Sands. He's going to let it through again, and now he switches out into Perrserker. I will fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to be able to force the shield because he needs Perrserker to try and farm down. I'm going to send in the Tapu Fini. I get the farm down, and I think this is a win because he's in Dragon Claw range. But look at this. I try and commit to the Scorching Sands. I don't get there. If I just click Dragon Claw, that's a win. But unfortunately, I myself let the team down there. All right, we move to the next match. After throwing that last game in the garbage, extremely unfortunate, we lead Tapu Fini into Azumarill. Azumarill is able to win the Zero Shield here, so this matchup isn't the most comfortable for the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini, however, can still play this close. They save switch into Giratina, and I'm going to respond with Perrserker. Again, not a lot of people are familiar with the fact that this is the moveset that I think people just should be running strictly on Perrserker, so they may in fact shield the Giratina, and they're definitely shielding it after they get a boost. You've got to be kidding me. The boost on the Giratina. But look at this. After boosting our Shadow Claws with the Trailblaze, that Giratina is still taking a lot of damage. I get the shield call right on the Shadow Ball, and Perrserker Shadow Claws down a boosted Giratina. Let's go, Perrserker. In comes Lucario. I'm only going to get one move off here, so I will go for the close combat. They are now 8 off their Shadow Ball. So I'm going to send in the Flygon, throw 6, and then catch on the Tapu Fini. But they switch out, and that's just a strict mistake from the opponent, because now I can just farm up, get a catch onto the Tapu Fini, and the game's over. Because, again, with these very glassy Pokemon, it all comes down to energy management. And by them switching out, they've guaranteed that I'm just going to have a massive energy advantage and therefore can dominate the game. The Scorching Sands will connect onto the Azu, and Lucario, I am so sorry. Scorching Sands, one-hit KO, and we're able to take that win. Hopping into the next match, leading Tapu Fini into Shadow Alolan Sandslash. This is a pretty nice spot to see this Pokemon. The Shadow Alolan Sandslash is going to be able to output quite a lot of damage, but the nice thing here as the Tapu Fini is I can survive the Drill Run and the Shadow Claws. I'm just going to look to farm up and fire off the Surf. Surf does a lot to the Shadow. The normal can take it pretty comfortably. The Shadow will have to shield. I'm looking to make it to the Surf, and they let me get there. Again, I don't want to potentially let them farm me down, so I'm just going to aggressively switch into the Perrserker. In hindsight, I should have called the first, because it's highly likely that they're just going to bait me and then go into the Drill Run, but in the moment I was thinking there's no reason to bait, but they do end up baiting. And now they're going to send out Turtonator. Turtonator, oh, this is really not great for me. I have the back-to-back close combats. They have a move, and what I should have done here was throw one Shadow Claw and then the move to try and entice them to throw their energy. Unfortunately, they just go for farm, and as we see here, it's Azu in the back. This is still winnable, but I need a catch. I'm expecting at this elo, they're not going to throw instantly, but they throw instantly. I get the prediction wrong, and unfortunately, a Flygon without any shields is a dead Flygon, and we will lose that game. We move to the next match, Tapu Fini versus Shadow Flygon. Opponent save switches to Registeel, and I'm going to respond with my own Shadow Flygon. Registeel does win the zeros for Shadow Flygon, so if you're counter switching the Flygon, you will need to commit a shield. However, a combination of a Scorching Sand plus a Dragon Claw and a couple Mud Shots will be able to comfortably knock out. So I'll land the Sands, that does a ton of damage, and I intentionally try and farm up as much as I can before firing off the Claw. They are going to let that through, and they're going to send out Skarmory, and here I have to pivot. If I stay in with the Flygon, I guaranteed lose this game. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to Scorching Sands to get damage on this thing. My clock's up, and I bring in the Tapu Fini. And I actually get an attack drop from the Scorching Sands as well, which is even better. So I'm very happy no shielding. They go for the Sky Attack. That does nothing after that attack drop, and now I can start launching these Surfs. They are core broken by the Tapu Fini. And you know what? After seeing that first Surf damage, sorry, the first Sky Attack damage, they're not going to be able to knock out with the Sky Attack. They have to Brave Bird. They do not. I'm able to make it to another Surf. And this Surf, does it get the final shield? It does. And that means this game is over. Because I can just Dragon Claw them. Again, if your Flygon doesn't have shields and you're down energy, you just lose. Dragon Claw, one hit KO. In comes Perrserker. And the opponent resigns the match. We got a match against fellow content creator NCK228, and what a nightmare lead, leading into Kartana. I save switch into my only answer, which is the Perrserker, and Perrserker is going to be answered with Giratina. So I have no answer for Kartana. He has no answer for Giratina. As we can see, the Trailblaze boosted Shadow Claws are just a nightmare for Giratina to deal with. I commit the shield. Giratina almost always Ominous wins in this matchup because Perrserker is very frail, but I can just pick up the knockout with the Trailblaze. So Trailblaze will pick up the KO, which is great. I'm now 2 stages boosted, and I'm ready to output some damage. In comes the Tapu Fini. Perrserker does not get to the move. A better Perrserker would have gotten there. So if I was running like a very good Perrserker, one that wasn't from an egg, I would have had a better chance. Here, I switched because I was expecting a simul switch from my opponent. I'm just going to full send the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands will be able to pick up the knockout, but realistically, he can just save a shield for the Razor Leafer, and I can't win the game. My only hope is I get the Sands and a debuff, but I don't get the Sands. I could have thrown a Dragon Claw there, but I knew I wasn't getting to a move with my Tapu Fini, so unfortunately for me, my only hope was a Sands debuff, and I did not get the move. Losing a lead in the final match, Tapu Fini versus Giratina, my Berserker save switch is unanswered and they stay into Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind will still do a chunk of damage. Outcomes, I thought it was going to be a Registeel, but that's a Melmetal on my screen. Oh my goodness. Melmetal is going to shield up the close combat. I'm going to commit the shield. Arguably, I should have just let this go because I'm going to be able to force one more shield here. Unfortunately, I thought that if I Trailblazed, I would be able to survive the Thunder Shocks and make it to another move, but unfortunately, it's not to be. So I should have just close combated to limit farm. But either way, I should be in a pretty okay position. So I am going to be hit with a couple Rock Slides, but at the very least, I'm going to have Flygon up a shield, and Flygon up a shield is just devastatingly effective. I'm going to farm up, try and throw the Surf right before they make the move, and unfortunately, it throws it on alignment, and they're able to catch. Again, the game was being really, really imprecise with charge attack timing, and it was very, very frustrating. So I'm going to be able to pick up the knockout with the Dragon Claw. It all comes down to what they have in the back as their final Pokemon. We already know they have the Melmetal. Melmetal is pretty close to a move. It's a Shadow Scizor. Scizor wins charge attack priority, so I'm not going to be able to fire off my move there. I will commit the shield. I'm farming up. I don't think I live the next Bullet Punch, so it all comes down to this. Did Melmetal leave with a move? In comes the Melmetal, and I get the Scorching Sands. I didn't see the Thunder Shock there, so I don't know if they just knew they didn't have a move and just didn't throw the Thunder Shock or what happened, but regardless, we are able to take the win. That Shadow Scizor, that Bullet Punch damage was terrifying in that endgame. All in all, I think this is one of the better ABC-style flexible teams if you're looking to climb ELO in the Great League Fantasy Cup. It's made up of Pokemon that a lot of people have, which is quite nice. The Tapu Fini does require a trade, but can be substituted out with Azumarill. We just had a massive Meowth event that had Galarian Meowth spawning in the wild for Berserker, and Shadow Flygon, I believe, was one of the Rocket leaders not too recently, and that's actually how I was able to get mine. All in all, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.